Welcome into the Dynasty review for the Denver Broncos, who had another interesting season. They finished 8-9. Obviously, were the laughing stock of the team when they lost 70-20, and then they went on a run, and then they benched Russ. So it was a weird season. Brian, when you think of the Broncos, what do you think of? What comes to mind?
I think about my brother-in-law, who we're constantly giving a hard time about being a Broncos fan, but he takes it on the chin. I don't know, man. Like, I feel like we've been waiting for the Broncos to be good for a couple of years, and it's not happening. Even though they were better than your Chargers, which isn't saying very much, but it's just kind of like, come on, get it together, you guys. Like, give us some fantasy relevant players. Like, where's Jerry Jeudy? Like, why isn't Javonte as good as we were hoping he would be, kind of a thing. So a little frustrating, but yeah, I guess we'll dig into it right now.
Yep. They finished 8-9. Obviously, Sean Payton's the head coach still. They are in the hole, $25 million, which is 28th best or worse, however you want to look at it. They have so they got to make some moves there for sure. They have just 6 draft picks. They have a first and a third, and then everything is a day 3 or later pick, day 3 is 4th round and later. So good few fifths in there. They have no free agents in terms of fantasy relevant guys. The only guy, unless I missed someone, was Adam Troutman, their tight end. But no quarterback, no running back, no wide receiver. That being said, they've rumored to move on from Russell Wilson. So they maybe they're gonna eat that cap hit and then move on. And then I heard other things that maybe they won't move on. So I don't know what they're gonna do. But they are he has an $85 million dead cap hit if they cut him, this year. So they're gonna be, they're going to be the next couple of years. They're going to be in trouble. This is not a very good situation. But we'll start with Russ. Still in terms of fantasy was okay. He's fine, especially in Superflex. He was QB 14, so he's one of the better QB2s out there, and that's missing 2 games. He averaged 17.7 points per game. He averaged more points than Trevor Lawrence, than Sam Howell, than Baker, than Tua. So guys that you wouldn't expect him just as much, basically almost the same as Jared Goff. Is there still value with Russ? Obviously there's still value. Are you still looking at Russ as he can be my QB2 for 2024, or do you kind of hope he's not your QB2 as of now, January 26th?
No, I think he's a great quarterback too. Like you said, he finished 14, I think he could finish a little bit higher. I wouldn't be surprised if he was, QB 10 this next year, I'm not necessarily wouldn't rank him that way, because I was really surprised to see him as quarterback 25 in Dynasty. And it's and then I started looking at the guys in front of him, and it's I kind of get it, I don't think Daniel Jones and Geno Smith should be in front of him. I think he's definitely going to play this year, and I would bank on him being better than those 2 guys, especially because we don't even know. Yeah, well, anyways, I was going to say we don't even know where they're going to play or if they're going to play, blah, blah, blah. But it's kind of I do agree with most of the people in front of him. Even Levis is kind of I don't know. I think I might rather have Russell Wilson, and Levis is quarterback 20. So I feel that would be kind of what you were just saying in the last video about that could be a lateral move where you could pick up another piece just based on Levis's ranking, So and that's mostly based on his youth and stuff like that. But I definitely wouldn't say Levis is definitely going to start more games than Russ in their careers necessarily, what's left of their careers anyways.
Yeah, and it's again, we got to look at Dynasty less in 5-year windows and more in 2-year windows, and
right.
Yeah, I understand Gino being above him because at least we know, for the most part, I know they're getting a new coaching staff in there, but Gino should be there in the starting quarterback for the Seahawks next year because I think his cap hit's doesn't make sense for them to cut him. Daniel Jones, I understand. I don't understand necessarily him above him because, what if they draft someone or something? He's going to be on the Giants most likely, but is he going to start? So I think there's just, a negative outlook with Russ. There's not a whole lot of upside with Russ. You look at his numbers and, he didn't have, week winning games. He had one game over 25 points is what I'm seeing. So, which is not necessarily what you need from your QB2. It's what you want, but it's not what you need. And then it's just the uncertainty of where is he going to go? What if he is a backup somewhere? What if he's not the guy? We don't know for sure. But what if he goes to Pittsburgh and becomes the quarterback? I think we'd like that. What if he goes to the Falcons and is the quarterback there for a year? We'd like that. So there's definitely spots for him to go to. Yeah,
I like the Pittsburgh thing because they have talented receivers and stuff, and they have a good enough run game. So I think he could be a good fit for them.
Yeah. I mean, there's a few teams. I mean, even Atlanta is kind of the same thing. Talented receivers in a run game, Minnesota, what if they pick him up for a year? I don't know why they would do that unless Cousins chooses not to go back to Minnesota. But
aren't there rumors that he might be going to Vegas?
Maybe. I don't know. That could be a spot too. Yeah, that's another one.
Which would be really weird because, same division and stuff like that. But I'm pretty confident that he's going to start this next year for somebody, maybe even the Broncos, who knows. He's just owed way too much money for them to walk away. But then again, that could just be, like we like to say, the sunk cost fallacy, where it's maybe they do just say you know what, screw it, and just eat it and then try and move on. But I think his situation, if he stays in Denver, is only going to get worse as far as his receivers, who we're going to talk about. Oh, I guess not next time. We go running back, so we'll get to the receivers.
And he was running a bit. 250 rushing yards is nothing, but it's nothing to like write home about. But for what was it?
I see 300. I see 340.
Okay, 340.
Yeah.
I was looking at the wrong. So that was his most since 2020. And then he also missed 2 games. So he's probably closer to 400, right? 22 per game. So yeah, he's about 380 or so. So that's when it starts. Once you get close to like 400, that's when it starts making a difference. So
yeah, 29 total touchdowns. Obviously, like the yardage, the passing yardage wasn't there to kind of like help that out. But I mean, 29 total touchdowns with 8 interceptions. It's not terrible numbers, and it's like it can definitely go up.
Yeah, for sure. Jarrett Stidham hold now just to see is he the quarterback, but as soon as if they bring someone else in, like he's to me kind of like a drop, even if he is the QB2. If you need a spot, running backs, Javonte, I just don't think he fits what Sean Payton wants to do with the run game. We are so excited because it's Sean Payton every year with the Saints had like a top 5 fantasy running back room, with Kamara and Ingram and even going back to, like when Darren Sproles was there, and there's another guy that I'm missing, but there's a couple more in there throughout his 15 years or so. What's that?
I just said Kamara, but you might have said him.
Yeah, I did. No, this is going back to like 2010s and stuff. He's always had good running backs, and Tim Hightower is another one. So I don't know if Javonte. I don't know. What do you have with Javonte? Because obviously he's coming off a major injury. He came back quicker. We didn't expect him to be ready for the season. He played in 16 games this year. And then we kind of expected, all right, by like November, we're going to see Javonte Williams. And it just never really panned out that way. And they're going to use multiple running backs. So I don't know. What's your... Do you want Javonte on another team? Do you think he's a buy low? Do you think he's a sell high. I don't even know where he's ranked in keep trade cut. So RB16.
Yeah.
You think you should sell him for that point, for that price, or where are you at with him?
I think that I'm kind of like, yeah, like I would. I don't know. Like let's think about it. So like if you're like you said, like Sean Payton, he likes to use more than one running back, but we've seen more than one running back be relevant for fantasy. Definitely, like the excitement, the hype, all that stuff. Like they're saying on Keep Trade Cut, like pick 201, or Josh Jacobs.
I would take that.
Yeah, I would take Josh Jacobs straight up for sure. Who's actually
I've seen
right in front
I've
of
seen
him.
I've seen first 2025 and 2026 first, so I'd definitely take that.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting. I wonder, because I see Tajay Spears like ranked 2 spots above him, and it's kind of like, I guess I can see it. Like, I mean, they're surprisingly close in age, but obviously that's the bump. Like when we talked about with the Titans, where like we're just assuming he's going to be the guy, and Henry's gone and stuff like that, and it's like I think that's kind of a lateral move. I'm gonna start using that because you said that.
Yeah. You're expecting him to be the guy and to be good. Like not just be the guy, but to be good. Like Alexander Madison was the guy, but he wasn't very good. So like it's like a double. That's why we talked about Tajay Spears. We're kind of like out on selling him high, or we should sell him high. But yeah, anyways, you can finish your thought there.
Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of like summed it up. Like, I think it's kind of funny, and I mean, obviously this is like somewhat recency bias, somewhat based on like the team that he's on, but Pacheco's 3 spots ahead of him, and it's kind of like, I guess, but it's like I wouldn't be surprised if Pacheco's like not as relevant this year as he was last year, but maybe he just earned himself the starting job, or sorry, he's had the starting job, but like I'm just thinking about him, 7th round. Wasn't he a 7th round pick, Pacheco?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess that's good for the Chiefs as far as like, they don't owe him very much to keep him around, but we've seen those 7th round guys get used up, like, and then just kind of like tossed to the side despite being good, So, yeah, he's in an interesting spot, definitely. Like, I don't think I want anyone below him over him. Actually, I mean, I see Tony Pollard like way down there. It's like if you could get Tony Pollard, and it seems like you should be able to get a decent piece with that too for Javonte. I would do that.
Yeah. It's tough because we've seen Javonte look good, but we've also never seen him going back to college be the guy. We didn't see it his first couple years in Denver. We didn't see it last year. Didn't see it in college. It was Michael Carter and Javonte Williams together. So I think one thing in his favor is he's obviously under contract. This team does not have a lot of money, don't have a whole lot of draft picks, at least in the top 4 rounds. So there's a good chance he is just the guy again, and that he is better because he's recovered from the knee injury completely. So I don't know. He is a very interesting candidate because he was like a top 5 dynasty running back a couple years ago, maybe in startups in before he got his injury, So, it's really hard to know. Maybe he can, buy low on him or as the offseason progresses or something. Jaleel McLaughlin, we'll see. Another example of like, did he hit his peak value at some point during the season when he started to take over? In our league, I traded him for a 2nd round pick that turned out to be the 203, which is ridiculous, but it kind of shows that like sometimes people get hyped up about guys, like when he has these amazing jumps from RB 74 to RB 40, that's a big jump. So they always take advantage of those if you can, I guess. He could still be something. He could still be good. He could still be a solid contributor on this team. So, Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else on Jaleel McLaughlin or Samaje Perine or something.
Nah.
Man.
Both holes.
I mean, McLaughlin again is one of those like, yeah, I definitely roster them, but he's one of those like, can you get him as a throw-in piece? And who knows, can you get Raheem Mostert as a throw-in piece pre-2023? And then look what he did. Obviously, I'm not saying Jaleel McLaughlin's going to be RB2, but always thinking about stuff like that. We're like, yeah, I can see him being the RB2 for Denver and being solid, and he's just a throw-in piece. So, yeah, and Samaje Perine, they have an out on him. I don't even know what they can save, but he seems like a candidate to potentially go back to like Cincinnati or join Tennessee because he has ties to their coach. So, yeah, he didn't work out. I thought he was going to be pretty good in Denver, but this whole team was disappointing. Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy as receivers, both have potential outs. They've been rumored about leaving the team since this time last year. We'll start with Sutton. We were talking about before and all year long, no one likes him. And this wasn't just in our leagues. It was in other people's like leagues where it was just like, I can't trade Cortland Sutton. Like no one wanted him. And I understand why to a certain extent, but he was a good contributor, like a top 30 running wide receiver, caught a bunch of touchdowns. I just don't know if it's going to repeat because especially if Russ is gone. Where are you at with Sutton?
Yeah, he's a tough one. We know he's like a good player. He's not a great player by any stretch, but we know he's never going to be like the number one guy. He was, they're sort of like their red zone threat. He's big. He's a big dude. Or at least tall, anyways. He's 6'4", so I think he's kind of interesting. I'm not necessarily trading for him, but I definitely think he'll be a contributor on this team or another team. If I like him best if he stays here with Russ, but I don't know. That's something you have to figure out. Like if you actually, what do you think how realistic that is? I don't think. Let's see. What can you actually get for him? Because he's ranked wide receiver 47. Basically, pick like a late second round pick. Yeah, I'd do it. I think. Yeah, I think you're kind of getting out as this is probably like one of your last chances, unless he's like really good this next year, which I don't really see. And even then, it's like, how confident are you that he's going to repeat it 2 years from now, kind of a thing, So I think this is about as high as his value is ever going to be. So I'm fine with getting rid of him.
Yeah. Yeah. Or even attaching like a third and even trying to get like a Jahan Dotson or Jamison Williams, someone that's been disappointing, but has maybe some more upside.
Would you trade him straight up for Treylon Burks?
Man, that's a good question.
I know. I was just thinking. I was like, yeah, I think I would actually.
I think I would. Yeah.
Yeah. And you could. It looks like you could definitely get that done. I don't know. Because Treylon Burks is wide receiver 61. I know there's like. I don't really see it as much of a risk. I think it's kind of like, yeah, you're just kind of like. You're going with like the potential, like the unknown of Treylon Burks, even though he's not fully unknown, versus like I feel like we know what we're going to get with Sutton. Like I don't think he's ever going to finish above wide receiver 30 ever again,
And he's not one of those veterans where you're like, well, if you're contending, he's going to be probably good this year. Like he could be nothing this year. Like depending on what team, he could be Allen Robinson or something, like where he just gets buried in a depth chart or something. So yeah, I think I would do that, and just take the potential with Treylon Burks, who's done nothing. So, yeah, and 37% of his fantasy points came from touchdowns. That's really high. Like you're getting close to 40%. I don't really like it when it's above 30%, but to be close to 40% is always a little sketchy there. What about Jerry Jeudy? Who would you prefer between those two? That's a tough one.
I guess Jerry Jeudy. just oh wow, they're actually back to back.
Yeah, I know. I saw that.
Yeah, I don't know who. I mean, I really don't care about Jerry Judy.
No.
Like, yeah, I don't know. It's so tough, you know. Like, I feel like last year was kind of like the year to like cut bait on him, sort of thing. You know, like we just haven't seen it. I don't know if it's. We can make excuses all day long, but the fact of the matter is, like, he just never panned out. You know. I see that he has 4 years experience, and I know that includes 23. So did they not give him the 5th-year option? Isn't he a first-round pick?
Yeah. So I was a little confused when looking at that contract because it said that he is under contract in 2024. So they must have given him the
because they would have had to do that before before 23 started. So
yeah.
Judy get
but yeah, I would definitely take Judy over Sutton. I still think there's slight potential there. It's not like he's done nothing like Treylon Burks his first couple of years. He had 850 yards year one. He had 972 in 2022. So like he's done something. He had, so if he just gets on the right team and a team that likes him and he becomes the wide receiver too, and he just like, he's still only 24, 25 years old, maybe going into next year, which, like there's still potential there. So would you throw like a 3rd round pick at Judy and just to bank on potential?
Yeah, I think I would. Maybe if it's not, maybe not if it's like an early 3rd, because you might just be, throwing your pick away. But I mean, how often do those picks that late hit anyways? They're few and far between, but I think I'd rather get a fresh new player with potential, given the depth of the rookie class that you've talked about before. Again, I haven't really looked at it too hard to like see like, oh, I'd like this guy, in the 3rd round, but
yeah, no one knows.
Yeah. I think it's kind of a toss up, but yeah. Oh, and yeah, they did pick up his 5th-year option. So, and he's not terribly expensive. I thought the 5th-year option would have been a little more. It's only, it's $13 million basically for next year. So
yeah, we'll see what he does.
Yeah.
Marvin Mims is another one. He definitely needs to be rostered. He's kind of one of those, like, if I can get him for a mid 3rd round pick, even maybe an early 3rd round pick, I might do it because I do think he's pretty good. We saw spurts and like his per touch numbers were crazy, and then they just didn't really use him. But also, if you're like, if you want to re-roll him as like someone's willing to give you a mid to late 2nd, and again, you re-roll him, I'm also fine with that. So if I can get him on slight discount, I'll do it. If I can re-roll him, I'll do it. So still think he could be a solid wide receiver. Again, this is a team that has no cap space, potentially no Sutton or Judy. And then, they have 2 picks in the top 80. So they don't have a 2nd round pick. So the odds of them bringing in multiple receivers are very low,
Yeah, I'm kind of like, he's definitely a guy who's sitting at a spot where it's like he's probably going to be the wide receiver 2 on the team, at least as far as like as it currently stands. Like, I got to imagine one of those guys, Judy or Sutton, is gone, and it's like they could both be gone, I guess. And I don't know if that necessarily makes him wide receiver 1. It's kind of like de facto wide receiver 1. But yeah, I'm not super excited about Mims. I know there is some excitement out there for him, but he's actually ranked below, 5 spots below Sutton, 6 spots below Judy, which is kind of surprising. It's like, I think I'd rather have, well, I guess it would be Judy, Mims, than Sutton. I would definitely rather have him over Sutton.
Yeah, I would too.
Just because of the youth. Like, you're essentially getting that 2nd round pick that we just talked about. We would trade Sutton for that late 2nd by getting Marvin Mims. So yeah, I think if you liked what you saw from him, which wasn't a whole lot, then trade for him, because you probably can get him for like an early 3rd or something like that. But I'd probably just yeah, I mean, I might do that. I don't know. I'd have to flip a coin. I think some days I might take Mims, some days I might take the 3rd.
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing it, it's because you like him. So that I guess that's kind of what I was getting to. Like, if I can get him and I like him for that discount, you know. Fun fact though, he did have 3 games of negative points this year.
Cool. That's not fun.
No, it's not. But I assume no one was starting him.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun for you as a Chargers fan. Like,
no, I've never seen that before. 3 games at minus 1 point, 2 times at minus 1.1, 1 at minus 0.3, and he had a 0-point game. So awesome.
and perhaps the most interesting player on the team. Are we moving on to tight end?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, Tim Patrick's still under contract, but
whatever.
I can't stay healthy.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about him.
I'm glad he got his money though, because good for him. Yeah, I don't know if it's the most. I don't even know if I want to spend too much time on Greg Dulcich, or is that who you're alluding to? Greg Dulcich?
No, Troutman. No, I'm just kidding. No, yeah, it is Dulcich. I think right now, like, not that I am like have any sort of confidence that like Greg Dulcich is gonna be the dude or anything like that, but I think this is like kind of what we talk about when it's like, oh, just buy tight ends like 2 or 3 a year and a half, 2 years into their careers, kind of a thing. Like, I think we saw something from him anyways. Not very much, I guess. Now that I'm looking at it, I was going to say his rookie year. Wow.
I had a theory about that.
Okay.
It's because the Broncos were at the peak of like, this team's trash, and even more so with Nathaniel Hackett. And then this guy comes in and he has this crazy hair and mustache, and he goes like, he takes like, I think it was like a 60-yard touchdown catch and run. And it's like, oh my God. He was just like exciting for the Broncos for like 2 or 3 games. And then he kind of faded out. So that's why I think he got slightly like overrated.
Well, it's funny because like the games, I guess, how many of these did he actually start? So there's 10. Okay. Yeah, I was going to say the games that he started in his rookie year, which is 2 years ago, just so everyone's like on the same page, talking about 2022, he was a rookie. I think was he the second rookie drafted after McBride?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, he played basically 60% of the snaps or more, a lot of them like in the 80s in his rookie year, which is not, I don't think, very common. He didn't do a whole lot with most of them, but he was demanding like a decent target share. Sean Payton has like a good, he has a good, what do you call it? Like rapport track record. There you go. Like with using tight ends and stuff. So, and I think you can buy him for very cheap.
Yep.
Like you're not, I wouldn't even give a second for him necessarily. And I don't think you have to. Like, what are they saying? They're saying a 2025 mid-third for Dulcich. Yeah. I would totally do that. Just like on like the chance. Like, what if he lives up to any kind of hype? I think this is like, he's tight end 23. So, but I know he is one of those guys, like he's in that range that you always talk about. Like, oh, he's probably even outside of the range you always talk about, like tight end 8 to 20. Like, it's like, I think they're all basically the same thing, which is not wrong. But I think because you can get them for so cheap, like just hold them, third year, basically going to be his second year coming up because he missed all of this year. Like he was injured. He came back, got injured again, unrelated injuries. So it's like, I think he's a solid buy super low. And I'm talking about low, very low. Yeah.
I mean, he's the perfect candidate of if someone wants to give me Dulcich and a third for Tucker Kraft, I'll take it in a heartbeat, because I'm not going to be surprised that Dulcich outscores Tucker. If someone wants to give me Dulcich and a second for Pat Freiermuth, I'll take it. I don't think Pat Freiermuth is going to be a difference maker at the tight end position. So not that I think Dulcich would necessarily be better than him. I just don't think Freiermuth is going to be a difference maker. So I'll take the second on top of it, So yeah, I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah. And plus, like we said, we don't know what's happening with 2 out of the 3 receivers on the team. I mean, it sounds like at least one of those guys will be there, and Judy, and like, I don't know. I can see a path for him moving forward. And like, I think he kind of fits that mold of like buying low on tight ends after basically their first year or two of not really producing, but showing a little bit. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I already went over it. So there you go.
No. Yeah, for sure. And what if this team brings in Taysom Hill, though? He reunites with Sean Payton. I always think those are logical. Or Kamara, is another guy that could be on this team. Reunites with Sean Payton, two guys that could be gone from the Saints. So,
yeah, I don't know if Kamara would worry me as much as
not for Dulcich. No.
Yeah, not for Taysom or Taysom Hill would. He hurts everyone around him because the way they use him, kind of a thing.
But every team from an NFL standpoint should have a Taysom Hill because he do so much for your team.
Yeah, he's a great actual NFL player. I'm just talking about fantasy wise. Like it's always so hard to actually like start him, but it is kind of nice to start. Like he's like the ultimate flex player. Like he is a quarterback and he is a receiver and he is a tight end and he is a running back. He's literally like all the positions. They should just get him. Yeah, I was gonna say they should be just getting him like teach him how to kick, and then he'll really be like 100% startable like every week.
Yeah, if you could do that, teach a kicker to do all that stuff, you'd save somebody. Like you'd save a kicker, tight end, third string quarterback spot. So. But yeah, it was more of just like pointing out like those are two very likely, or not likely, but a decent chance they're on the Broncos in 2024. So just keep that in mind with all their players. But yeah, our second longest one of the slate so far, which makes sense. There's a lot of things to talk about with the Broncos. But yeah, up next is the Raiders. Any last words about the Broncos that we missed?
Yeah, just when you couldn't think it would get any worse, now we have to talk about the Raiders.
Yeah, right. The Raiders. Although there's some optimism around them.
They're always.
Yeah, I know. But we'll be back with the Raiders as always. Like and subscribe. We'll catch you guys all next time.